It's time to make some noise. Welcome to Sound Off Sports. It's NFL Combine Week. How's your 40 looking? Don't worry, we get you caught up. And later on the show, yes, the CEO of NRL, the National Rugby League, joins me. Plus, a little bit after that, we're talking everything about court storming in college basketball. We hear your thoughts. Sound Off Sports starts right now.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports.
Welcome to Sound Off Sports. I'm your host, Mike Davis. I'm going to bring in my producer, James Edward Barrickman, the fourth. James, have you been doing some push-ups, some 40s, some bench pressing? Have you been getting into Combine Week?
Of course. I've been running all over the house, working on my three-cone shuttle drill.
See, that's a tough drill. That's actually one of the harder ones. Listen, guys, it's Combine Week in Indianapolis. Everybody always loves that. But a lot of the big talk is surrounding a lot of the top picks, especially Caleb Williams, the superstar quarterback from USC, who's not participating in any workouts. He's going to be throwing at his eventual USC Pro Day. But we wanted to know what you guys had to say about the number one potential prospect not partaking in any of the workouts. Let's hear what people had to say.
So this first one is from Tommy Crow via Facebook. He says, all teams should be, especially after he sat out the bowl too. I wouldn't risk a first rounder on him. He isn't that good to just assume he gets drafted early.
Okay, well, that's complete madness. I mean, a first rounder, yes, maybe he was trying to say first overall pick, but yes, I think obviously Caleb Williams has showed a lot of promise in these past two seasons at USC, and a lot of people love him. The question is, do the Chicago Bears feel that they should trade Justin Fields and make Caleb Williams the new king of the castle in Chicago? I think a lot of people love him. He's shown a lot of promise. I don't know, do I have the same feelings about him that I did with Joe Burrow or Peyton Manning? Well, that's yet to be seen. But I don't know if there's anything him, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, I don't know if there's anything any prospect when it comes to QB right now could do at the Combine that would further show anything to a scout or an executive right now, right? What do you think?
I agree. I don't think it's an issue, especially because, like you said, Jaden Daniels and Drake May, they're not throwing either. They're going to throw at their pro days, and that'll be the end of it.
Right.
As you mentioned, there's really nothing, especially Caleb Williams and Drake May, that they can do to up their draft stock. They're already the consensus 1 and 2 overall picks.
Yeah, I don't think a bench press, a three-cone drill, none of that stuff is really going to move the needle for any of those guys in terms of supplanting one of the other QB prospects. What else do people have to say?
Caleb Williams is the number one pick in the draft. He's not going in the Combine because he is the number one pick going to the Chicago Bears.
My brother, Johnny Davis. I like that name. Listen, here's the one thing that I would have loved is just, I think there's a confidence and a swagger to just saying, yeah, screw it. I'm going to throw at the Combine and I don't care what anybody thinks because I'm that, confident in my ability. So there's something about that. But yes, these guys, Caleb Williams made $10 million in the past 2 years through the NIL stuff. So, there is a lot to lose for these guys, but I just wish it wasn't the same mentality as the All-Star Game dunk contest. And it's like, wow, I don't want to perform in the dunk contest because I don't want to, lose my grip. I don't want the worst case scenario to happen. I would just love if the projected top pick of the draft would say, yeah, I'm confident in myself and I'm going to throw.
It would be nice for us as consumers, absolutely, and I would love to watch them. But I like I said, I don't think it's concerning because the other top guys aren't throwing either. Drake May is not throwing, Jaden Daniels isn't throwing. And what would be concerning if he were the only guy not throwing is everything that's kind of built up over his career at USC. Like his dad was kind of insinuating that maybe he would go back to college if, it wasn't the right team picking number one. You saw that video of him sobbing into his mother's arms after that Washington game. Right. So there were a lot of red flags, and this would have been another one had, Drake May or Jaden Daniels decided to throw.
You hated that. That was a major red flag when it came to the James Edward Barrickman the fourth. The crying in the mother's arms. He doesn't like showing emotions. All right, we have one more, right?
Correct, yes. This is from TJ Kagabane, he would be foolish to throw in the combine. He could only hurt his stock. May and Daniels aren't throwing either. That was via Facebook.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff this week is really what's happening off the field for guys like Caleb Williams, because he's meeting with the Vikings, he's meeting with the Raiders, he's meeting with the Jets, he's meeting with so many teams, Commanders, obviously, and the Bears. So this is really what's going on with him this week. His team meeting a lot of these executives and scouts and management and coaches. Time for sink or swim, and I'm staying on the Caleb Williams thing, but more specifically the Chicago Bears and what GM Ryan Poles needs to do. Okay, so let's put it this way. If you're the GM of the Chicago Bears, you've had this guy Justin Fields, a very athletic QB in the, depth chart for the past few seasons, right? He was drafted 11th overall in the 2021 draft. Well, he's demonstrated a lot of athletic ability and some stuff, but he's definitely not the answer. Now, I think obviously you're going to try to trade him as, he's entering his 4th season. You don't want to keep him on that extend him for that 5th-year option on that rookie deal. So yeah, you ship him away. You want a new presence at the QB position. The only thing Ryan Poles can do right now to screw up the situation is to not take Caleb Williams. We've been talking about this guy for so many years. He's been the highly touted prospect. And at that first overall pick, you don't want to be the GM who didn't take Caleb Williams. That's the mistake of a lifetime. So yes, Ryan Poles, his whole career, his, storied history in the future is going to be tied to what he does at this number 1 pick. Even if he trades back and accumulates a bunch of draft picks, but Caleb Williams becomes that guy, that franchise quarterback, you can't miss out on that opportunity. The Chicago Bears have never had a quarterback who was that franchise QB bona fide guy that really is leading you to Super Bowls. It's always been about defense for them and game managers. I mean, they had a lot of success with a guy like Kyle Orton, right? So, I mean, they could get a top-tier QB here, and they can't turn away from that prospect. Now, it's going to be fascinating to see if Caleb Williams is certainly the guy. There was some talk, like my producer was saying throughout the season, where Caleb Williams' dad was kind of shutting down interest of going to Chicago. Now Caleb Williams has told ESPN that he's going to be happy wherever he goes. This is what he said to ESPN. He said, if I get drafted by the Bears, I'll be excited. If they trade the pick and I get drafted by someone else, I'll be just as excited. So he's really, interested in just going anywhere. For a guy like that, though, to be the first pick of the draft, I think you got to want that situation. There's a lot of talk with the Commanders at number 2 because he grew up in that Washington, D.C. area, and now there's Kingsbury there. So there's, a little bit of interest and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, for a guy in the last 2 years at USC who threw 72 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a little over 8,000 yards and a QB rating just under 170. This is a guy who's definitely demonstrated he's got the skill set, the tools. I think, like James said, are we worried maybe a little bit about the demeanor? Does he have that edge that we like in so many of our quarterbacks? Yeah, maybe that's a little absent. But right now, you got to take him at number 1, and you got to feed into the way this league is moving and the trend of needing an elite franchise level quarterback with tons of talent. That's what GM Ryan Poles should be doing. He should be trying to ship off Justin Fields and accumulate as many draft picks as possible. If I were him, I'd trade Fields, package that with the 9th overall pick, trade up again, and select Marvin Harrison Jr. and bring both of those guys to Chicago and pair Caleb with him, kind of similar to what the Texans did last year in taking not only Stroud, but then they also got that fixture on the defensive side of the ball, getting Will Anderson as well. That's my thoughts. That's our Sink or Swim for this week. We'll be right back after a short break. I'm talking to the CEO of the NRL. Yes, the National Rugby League is trying to make some presence, breaking new ground here domestically in the United States. We'll talk about that after the break.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
All right, guys. So now I am joined by the CEO of NRL, National Rugby League, Andrew Abdo. Andrew, great to be with you. So, let's talk about this. This is not an easy task, bringing a sport to the United States that is, a huge monumental thing all over across the globe. But here in Vegas, And in the US, it's a domestically different situation. But the enthusiasm really seems to be kicking up, especially kickstarting everything here now in Las Vegas. So Allegiant Stadium this weekend, tell us the challenges that come with springboarding a new sport here in the States that needs a different kind of understanding of rugby.
Well, our sport started in 1908 in Sydney in Australia, and we've been around for 116 years, and we've never managed to achieve something as monumental as this. So it is big for us. It's big for our country. It's big for our sport. And obviously, it's big for our fans. We've had a huge response, and there's about 14,000, 15,000 Australians that have made the trip over. So this is a big moment for our sport. We are the National Rugby League. We are the #1 watch sport in Australia. And to be able to have our season opening, so these are premiership points matches, a doubleheader right here in Las Vegas, the sports and entertainment capital of the world, is a huge honor for us. And it's an exciting opportunity for us to showcase our sport to US sports fans. And as you said, massive exercise.
Because I think a lot of times when you have a sport that has such a storied history, started, like you said, in like the 1908 or 1900. So when something has a storied history like that, I think a lot of people think, why do we need new fans? Why do we need to, establish a new set of fandom in somewhere else? Because if people don't already get it, well, maybe they shouldn't just get it. But I think it's great that you want more people to join the party, and you're willing to accommodate those people and teach and start that process. So what do you think makes you the special visionary to be able to achieve this? Because I do think it takes a lot of patience and a lot of grace to get a new fan base to accept something that is already a massively monumental, successful concept.
Yeah, you're spot on. So you need a if I think it was Mario Andretti who said, if everything seems under control, you're not going fast enough. And I suppose for us, it started actually in 2020 in the midst of COVID. When we had the pandemic and all sports around the world were shut down, we had to think about not only how we could get back on the field, but how could we do business better, become more sustainable as a sport, and how we could grow. So we were already thinking about growth back in 2020. And we've had a really successful couple of years and some really strong seasons. But we've got broad ambitions to open up our fan base and take what is a very successful and popular sport in Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific, and really showcase that across the world.
Andrew, thanks for spending some time with us. We appreciate it. Welcome back to Sound Off Sports. Okay, so for a little context, we've been asking you guys to sound off about, should court storming be banned in college basketball? The reason we did that, there's been a lot of talk recently, a lot of news, of course, when Wake Forest upset Duke basketball the other day and knocked down star player Kyle Filipowski. He got knocked down, hurt his knee a little bit, and it was a pretty bad sight when Wake Forest and those Deacons rushed the court and did that to Kyle. And even a month before, you can remember the superstar Caitlin Clark of Iowa. She got leveled, actually, by an opposing fan after Ohio State beat them. So I'm going to bring in producer James Edward Barrickman IV for this. James, you and I kind of stand differently on this issue of court storming, but I want to hear what the people at home had to say.
So this is from Elicio Marasigan via Facebook. She says, "It's a big yes for me because rushing people like a herd could be turned into chaos, a stampede, and a very dangerous mob mentality that could kill people, especially little children, elderly, and the weak and disabled. A golden buzzer for that proposal." Okay,
so great name, Elicio. So I think yes. I mean, to me, this is where I stand. I think court storming should be banned, not just in college basketball, in every sport. But I know college basketball, they really feed into this frenzy because they like the spectacle of it. But we do have to consider player safety. And that's a major issue. Before we get into our stance, let's hear what one more person had to say.
So I more agree with Matt and Henderson here. He says, "The thought of banning court storming is ridiculous. Here's what you do. When the game ends, You have the teams shake hands. You get security to prevent the storming as they shake hands. The opponents scurry off to the locker room. Then you open up the floodgates. You can do the same thing in college football, too, for field storming.
Let's scurry. I like that word usage there. Listen, I don't know how you stop it. Every game I've been to, the amount of security there, they're not doing anything to stop a court storming. That's just not going to happen. Here's what I think is interesting. Everybody that's talking about this issue that is part of the basketball community, they're not for it. John Shire, the head coach of Duke, he said the only people that should be on the floor are the coaches, the officials, and the players. Bill Self, head coach, legend at Kansas, he's like, no, we got to abolish this. We got to get rid of court storming. I have a funny story for you, James, okay? I know you think I'm a curmudgeon-y old man in a 32-year-old's body, and my idea of fun might be a little different than the average college kid.
That is true.
But when I was a student at the University of Miami in Florida back in 2013, yes, on January 23rd, 2013, I was there watching the Miami Hurricanes play, at the time, the #1 ranked Duke Blue Devils. And yes, they pummeled them, beating them 90-63, the Hurricanes. And students, my peers, rushed the court. Now, what did I do, James?
You sat back and watched?
I took it in. It was a great moment. I'm like, wow, how lucky am I? I'm a Miami Hurricane, a college student. I get to say I was at the game where we defeated, with Shane Larkin, we beat the Duke Blue Devils, okay? But that's all I needed. Why does fun have to be causing chaos and destruction and going crazy? I think it's too much fun. Sometimes fun can be taken in little doses. We don't need to go over the top like it's, this rampage, right?
Why is the narrative that storming the court and celebrating with your peers framed as chaos? It doesn't always have to be chaos. What I think is everybody needs to relax. You need to relax. Alicio needs to relax.
I love relaxing. That's why I didn't storm the court.
Jay Billis needs to relax. Greg Byrne, the AD at Alabama, needs to relax, okay? Let's pump the brakes a little bit. Nobody needs to be arrested for storming the court, and no team should ever have to forfeit if their fans did rush the court. Look back at the 70-plus years the teams have been doing this. Nobody's ever been seriously injured. Take a look, do your own research, take a look back. Nobody's ever been seriously injured. And Kyle Filipowski, he played the next game that they had against Louisville. Caitlin Clark, she didn't miss any games either.
But she got leveled, and here's the thing, this is why I hate it. And I'm going to get on like my soapbox and be like Larry David-esque right now. But with social media, these fans are not storming the court because they're taking in the moment. Like, that's why college basketball is trying to push that as the narrative. Oh, before March Madness, we're going to play these cool videos of students rushing the court. No, all these kids, all these students, they're rushing the court with their cell phone. That's why they're pummeling into all these players, because it's not about just living in the moment and like this beautiful, like, experience that, I'm a college student, I'm taking in the moment. No, it's about I'm capturing this for my personal social media. And so it's like, I think the heart of the matter, although we're saying, oh, we don't want to strip away from these cool experiences of college students. Well, every student thinks they're a national broadcast company now. So they're just really rushing the court to show, Frank down the hall, hey, or my friend from high school who doesn't get to go to, University of Miami or Wake Forest. Oh, I was here on the court and here's my moment capturing it. So I don't think the beauty of the moment is as authentic as you think it is.
I think that's just how people take in the moment and live in the moment these days. It may not be the way that you like it or the traditional way to the older heads, but that's just what it is. To me, you're trying to paint this as something that's dangerous. A lot of people are trying to paint it as something that's dangerous, but nobody's ever been hurt in doing this. So let's relax with this whole, it's super dangerous, it needs to be abolished. Court storming is one of the reasons we love college basketball. It's kind of what makes college basketball college basketball. Now, does it need to be reformed in some way? Absolutely, I can get behind that, and that's kind of what this next person has to say.
Okay, let's hear.
It should not be stopped, but what they should do is wait until after the opposing team is off the court. When the opposing team is off the court, then they can charge the court.
there's no way to negotiate when or if you do, or if you're doing it, you're doing it, and there's not going to be any way to time it out. I just think another problem is we're seeing it's like Murray State defeats number 17, South Carolina, and students are still rushing the court. So it's like even understanding when it warrants to do the crazy rushing and storming of the court, it's not always warranted when it happens.
Maybe not to you, and there is a way to keep students off the floor. It's up to the NCAA, it's up to the conferences, it's up to the universities to beef up security near the floor to make sure nobody gets on the floor until the opposing players, coaches, and officials are well off into the locker room. That's the way you stop that.
Well, you know what? I think now we got to storm off to a quick commercial break. That's what we're going to do, and that's certainly warranted. Coming back after a short break, we're going to be talking about, more about the combine, and we're going to try to figure out where James and I stand on what combine activity we would really hit out of the park. We'll talk about that after a short break.
You're watching Sound Off Sports.
All right, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. Okay, so right now we're going to be talking about, in honor of the NFL Scouting Combine, some of the drills that both I and James Edward Barrickman IV could really do well in at the Combine. So James, between everything, the 40, the bench press, the vertical inch leap thing, all these different things, 3-cone drill, what do you think you would do best at?
So I thought about this long and hard, actually, more than I'd like to admit. Going back to my athletic days, I didn't have great straight line speed, so it wouldn't be the 40. I wasn't real strong in the chest, so it wouldn't be the bench press. My ups,
I
my
like
jumps.
your pecs. You got some.
Yeah, they look nice on camera right now, but they're not real strong. But what I'm good at is the 3-cone drill, I think.
Really?
I don't have real great straight line speed, but I'm shifty. I'm quick. I can come in and out of cuts fast. So I think the 3-cone drill.
Yeah, you're like a Wes Welker. Like I could see
100%.
you on the field doing, the little Amendola,
Slot receiver.
That's you. I love that. Me, I'm gonna go with an interesting choice here. I'm gonna say the interviews.
Oh, that makes a ton of sense for you.
Right?
That's very on
Why
brand.
does that make sense for me?
That's just who you are. Anybody that knows you knows that was the answer that you were coming with, and I wish I'd have been prepared for that.
You know what? So I think I do good with some of the throwing, but after getting in those meetings with the GMs, they'd be like, we want this guy in our building. That's what I think. Guys, we want to hear from you. Make sure you send us an email at soundoff@kvvu.com or check the phone on the screen and give us a buzz. We'll see you next time on SOS.